So then the next thing follows. Well, if I am prosperous and comfortable, and well, then that means that I am righteous. So therefore, God is happy with me. See how it works? And then the other side of that is, well, and they clearly had the same theology that said, well, to the poor and the needy and the broken and all, it is because they are rejected of God, because they're just a bunch of unrighteous people, and they deserve to be in that condition. And so what that says is that we start looking at other people, and then we begin to judge that. And say, well, God must be happy with me because, and then, they're like that because it was and is and always will be a really messed up way to look at life, and it's truly poor and erroneous theology to look for. The other thing that might say then is somehow, okay, just because we may be somewhat prosperous and doing well and comfortable, successful, but we can look at whole people groups and nations of people, some of whom I've visited. I can venturing into the mountains of Bulgaria and Romania, into these gypsy communities, or into these neighborhoods in Cuba and Havana, where they're barely able to piece together stuff to make a shelter out of to call a house. Does that say then by definition that somehow we're better than them? We're more righteous and holy and favored of God than them? I don't think so. Actually, the reverse might be true. In that, and really, I would venture to say, I think it's dangerous to say conclusively or dogmatically, whichever that it is. But I think we would be safe to say that it is likely the reverse. And the reason being is that God's economy, God's view of the world and people is really pretty much upside down from ours. Or maybe, ours is upside down from His, because His would be right side up. Okay? And that says that the lowest of these are the ones that He is, His eyes are on everybody. Okay? But it's those whom people, and especially the self-righteous and wealthy and comfortable and prideful and arrogant people are going to dismiss completely. Very ones on whom He is most focused and concerned. And remember, and our heart and eyes and vision should resemble the Father's. Okay? Which means that should be ours. What is His should be ours. And not looking on, oh wow, look, and look what they have, and look what they do, and wow, it's so cool. And it's really easy to get caught up in that. But we look and we even say somehow, wow, we even think about, if God could reach so-and-so who's famous, what a platform he would have, and how how many people would come to know Jesus because of it. That really is really wrong thinking. That's thinking by just natural terms, not by faith, not supernatural how God works. Now, yes, it does happen. It can happen because God will want to use every one of His, whether He's in a high place or a low place. But that one that we might say, well, if I, minister over here and these people, they'll have no impact on the kingdom. They may have just, mind-blowing impact on the kingdom through their life and service to Him. Because we're not like, the lowest of the lowly gathered here today, but in the world's spectrum of the child abandoned on the side of the road, to kings and presidents and rulers, I'd say we're kind of closer to the former end of that scale. And we're just ordinary folks whom God can use amazingly. Just a side note for you. God expects so much more out of His people. Expects so much more out of His people. So much for having those to be brief, right? It's terrible. All right, so into chapter 3, we get into this thing about the reasons for His judgment. He said, I'm a lion roaring and I'm coming after you because you're really messing up, you're blowing it, you're not doing it right. First couple of verses says, Hear the word which the Lord has spoken against you, sons of Israel, against the entire family which He brought up from the land of Egypt. You only have I chosen among all the families of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. It starts right there because there's a unique relationship. They are His kids. And they are taking their relationship for granted. Did you hear me? Remember, the whole time any of these things come out of what they were doing and what they were doing wrong, and we need to be, every single time anything comes out like that, what does that mean? So when I said, when we make the statement that they were taking their relationship with God for granted. They were chosen, which makes them, they're special. Chosen, special, you can use all kinds. It's true. But their being chosen of God also required having responsibility. Not just being, I'm that special, favored, spoiled child of God, which they've become. And since we're one of the chosen, we take that for granted, la-di-da, we can kind of do as we please. Right? A lot of believers drift there and go over there. Well, gosh, my salvation is eternally secure, and then what's it matter? It matters a lot. It might not matter in terms of we can't lose that purchased relationship, but we can lose and forfeit everything else. The father-child relationship is probably really the most helpful for understanding this. I treat my children differently than I treat yours. I will, wrestle with them and do all kinds of just fun and crazy stuff with them. But when they disobey or rebel, then the discipline is sure to follow. I don't spank your kids. I spank my kids. I was just about to say I would want to. Every now and then one gives kind of permission, and whatnot. But why is it that that relationship is different with with my kids than with your own children than anyone else's children? Because they're yours. They are yours, and they're yours to discipline. Israel were God's little chosen family. And the others out there are His creation and the rest of humanity, just like for us, I care about, and we do all kinds of things to help one another and one of those kids and all kinds of stuff. And He does that with every other person and every other nation outside of Israel. But Israel's are His. And He says, because, among the families of the earth, I have chosen you. You only have I chosen among all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you See, God's kids have got it extra good when they're good, and they get it extra bad when they're bad. You know, with mine, when they're good, man, they get it. They get the good stuff, man. We're going to wrestle, we're going to play games, I'm going to buy them stuff, etc., etc., etc. But I'm also going to spank them when they disobey. In the same way are the children of God. And we can't change that relationship any more than you know, Abram or Desmond or the girls can change the relationship with their father. It does, no matter what they do, how bad, even if they say, I'm done, I'm out of here, whatever, it doesn't change the reality of the relationship. And so ours, no matter how much we ignore God and how much we reject His ways and just do our own thing and run away and do whatever it is, He is still Dad, we're still child, and His love compels Him to discipline us back. You see, when Israel was bad, they were still God's people, but they just didn't get to obey His blessings, or to enjoy His blessings, because of disobedience. Instead, God had to discipline him. We tend to think that we can earn God's blessing, and so therefore, if we can earn God's blessing, then somehow we deserve it in the end. That's where that leads. If somehow I think I can earn God's blessing, then if I really have, well then now I deserve it. We never do. Never, ever, ever deserve it. None of it. All of it has come because He wants to do it, because He loves us. And we don't earn God's blessings by being good. What we do is we free God up